there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on Episode 4 of the anime series Zankyo no Terror, or Terror in Resonance. And you really get the feeling watching this episode by episode that it is just a modern masterwork unfolding before your eyes, not least of which because of the one-upsmanship and chess game of wits that are going on between Sphinx 9 and 12 and Shibazaki, this chief investigator who, he's a former investigator, but his prowess intellectually has brought him back into the fold because he's been right in step, right in line with everything Sphinx has been doing and uncovering this whole mythology of Oedipus. He's very well informed to that degree, and this episode is all about Nine basically turning the tables and saying, essentially calling Shibazaki out. We know who you are, sucker. We know you're onto us, or you think you're onto us, and we're going to, bait you every step of the way. We're going to make you think you figured everything out, and then we're going to pull the carpet right out from under you, and that's exactly what happened in this episode. Shibazaki is, chasing down leads. He's going to different towns trying to figure out the history of 9 and 12, not really being able to put a name to them, but in their former guises, where they've been able to get bomb materials and stuff like that, using falsified credit cards as the investigative reports lead us to become aware. And what I love about this is it's really got sort of a harkening back to classic anime feel, like Cowboy Bebop or things like that. And of course, that's only natural with Shinichiro Watanabe helming this series. But I love the procedural aspect and how everything just takes a turn for the incredibly insane when basically Sphinx unleashes their latest riddle. And again, it's a following on from this Oedipus mythology, which Shibazaki's right in line with, but it's one of those things where he least expects where it's going to go. They end up talking about this aspect of the mythology where Oedipus is led into the underworld by his daughters after having gouged his eyes out, and upon, the doors to the underworld, or whatever you want to call it, the temple, there are these three things inscribed, and so they don't know exactly where to lay their focus. Shibazaki thinks he does, and he's putting all these names into the computer program that they eventually figure out is part of the air quotes game 9 and 12 as Sphinx have set up for the investigator to play. And finally, through a verbal nod from his partner, Shibazaki realizes the focus is on the phrase, know thyself, and he puts in his own name. And this is what is supposed to stop the explosion that, 9 and 12 has set up. This is completely calling him out, basically pointing the finger right back at him after his threat live on camera in the previous episode. This is turning the tables on him directly. They're making him the direct focal point. But as they know, the bomb, the explosion does not cease the countdown in any case, because the other investigators, they believe, after looking at some CCTV footage and such like that, that they found the bad guy's hideout. So they're trying to make their move on them, and, they're being watched. And we find out that the explosion is not a literal explosion. It's not, buildings being blown up like Sphinx were basically leading them on to believe. It was actually an information explosion. They are totally high-grade hackers in this episode, with Nine basically unleashing the entirety of the investigative information that the police force and all of that has accumulated on all of these explosions and all of the details and everything, making it all public and completely defacing the police department and the investigators involved. And it's just mind-boggling. Now, as this is going on, of course, we have the drama unfolding with Lisa, and we basically have 12 being concerned for her, firstly in the sense that, she could end up, if she's caught because she's run away from home, he's like tracking her on his mobile device, her movements and such. If she's caught by the authorities, maybe she'd be, moved to say something about them. So he's concerned about it on that level. But he kind of becomes a savior in this episode when they have this impromptu meeting, and Lisa's basically talking about being a fool, being stupid for believing someone might save her. There might be a saving grace, a knight coming down from the clouds on angelic wings to bring her out of her life and bring her to some level of freedom and the things that dreams are made of. And we have 12 basically answering this by, as Lisa has run off and she's accosted by police, he comes riding up on the motorcycle and very much becomes that knight in shining armor to whisk her away. And for a few moments she's laughing and she's giddy, and she even says she hasn't laughed like this in a long time. She feels that sense of freedom. It's been granted to her. Freedom through, you might say, anarchy. And it's a completely mind-boggling thing as well, because once they get back to the hideout, you have 9 very adamantly, almost as if he was choreographing what 12 was probably going to do. He was waiting right in the doorway for them to come charging in, Lisa in tow and everything. He's like, no, we cannot trust her. You don't understand the level of danger you're bringing into the fold if you're going to try to put that on her shoulders and make her a part of this group and everything like that. Thus, Lisa faints right in front of them, whether it's a level of she thinks he's basically saying they're going to kill her right then and there, or maybe because she's been under so much stress and strain, she hasn't been eating, and she's, very weak and everything like that. She just sort of passes out from just the shock of that. It remains to be seen. We'll have to see, because, of course, that's the cliffhanger ending of the episode. So, it is just amped up to 11, this particular episode of this series. Every step of the way, it seems to be going that route, and I am loving every single second of it, because now I can only wonder, what's going to happen when Lisa comes to in the next episode. What's going to happen with Shibazaki and the police force now that they've been effectively defamed in front of the entire public? There's going to be public outcry probably, and who's going to pay the price? Is it going to be Shibazaki or one of his underlings? As we saw in this episode, he did get a little bit of hell from one of his underlings who said he was kind of enjoying this chess game that they were playing back and forth with Spinks and everything like that. So it's going to be definitely interesting as hell to see where this goes, and I couldn't be more excited to see how it all unfolds. So yeah, otherwise that'll be pretty much it for me on this. I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.